Hey, it's the last passive AD FNATIC upset, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
One thing I want to ask was this, right? And one thing I've observed from watching your and Rekkles' career side by side is that, like, how the fans feel about a player totally changes how good they think the player is. Because not only, obviously, if you had a lot of haters who've been like loving the fact that you don't win, etc., and they always come out the woodwork when the split ends, but you've also got this complicated scenario now where I'm sure before there was a massive overlap of like Rekkles fans and FNATIC fans, and obviously they could all be part of one team. But now, obviously, I'm sure the Rekkles fans aren't FNATIC fans, and now there's FNATIC fans who maybe liked Rekkles before, but they're not sure about upset. So I feel like this is all to lead to this question, right? Because I want to get your take on it. This last split actually malded me so hard, and here's why. Because I hate when people claim to have a certain principle, like, I like this type of a player or this thing, and then when it's a different player who does all that, they're like, oh, but I don't like him. It's like, so you never had a principle then, you're just a fucking guy out there with random opinions. So what tilted me was this dude, right? As you said, in the past, when Rekkles and Hylissang used to play together, they used to be both considered the best at their role. And Hylissang used to make all these amazing plays and all these great fucking insane shit happen on Bike and Thresh and all the shit Rakan that he does now, just like that. But here's the difference. When they would have an amazing 2v2 bot lane, Rekkles wins all the MVPs. And in fact, like I told you, there was even stories of like FNATIC might kick fucking Hylissang if he ever hinted too many times in a split. Like I heard there was all friction and stuff. So then we come to this year, right? The bot lane has been the best for the last two splits at least. It's been the best in the West. It's looked amazing. You had all these insane things where you were doing like Rekkles type things that you were getting even less deaths than bloody Rekkles. Despite the fact, by the way, if you look at the lanes, you're still playing aggressively. You're still getting kills. It's not like you're just playing under tower. So to me, after all that, and all the fans and analysts were like, yeah, it's Hylissang. Hylissang's the MVP. And upset, he's just carried. It's like, what the fuck? That's like the opposite logic you guys applied to Rekkles. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, obviously, this is my personal rant, but like, what are your thoughts on this? It feels a bit like you're not allowed to win. You're not allowed to be good or the best or something.
It feels like that, and that's where I have to practice gratefulness for what I have and not what I feel like I deserve. But, like, yeah, let's be real. There was like two things I want to say about that. First of all, trying to respond like logically to like irrational comments by people online is just like, it's a game, you can never win. Like you can make them look stupid, or maybe you can make them look like they like are wrong, and you can try to show that and prove that by like just stating like facts. But in the end, if this guy doesn't like you, he will go to the next post and probably
absolutely
more fucking absurd and toxic to you. And that's just like how it is. And it's true. I think I haven't presented myself maybe as the most likable person, or the things around me, especially after this situation that happened after last Worlds. I think I was definitely not someone people were like willing to praise too much or like give too much like good things too, because there was so much hate and toxicity around me. So if that's the case, people want to stay away from you. The same way when I was doing so well and I was carrying this team last year, before all of that, everyone wanted to be super nice and and talk about me and everything like this. It definitely was a huge 180 in terms of that. And I saw a picture of like all the highest KDAs ever, or least death, and I think 4 out of 5 people who had least death won MVP. It was like Yellow Star, Forgiven, and 2 times Rekkles, I think. And the guy that broke the record with like more than any of these people before got like 1 player of the game after he like kind of complained, but in a not so serious way about that. And that
you weren't even an MVP candidate, like for real. If you go look at who they're voting for, you weren't even a candidate, mate.
It wasn't close. There was never a conversation about that. And I'm not saying like I deserved it over VTO or anything like that.
No, but you want to be in the conversation at least.
But if 4 people before that do something less and you do something more, and you like some years there's just a lot of people that do something outstanding.
Yeah, fair enough.
But let's be real. Probably there could have been a different story around me if people would like me more, or if I would have more fans. And the thing after the game is like a fan vote, the players of the game, and that also dictates MVP conversation, because Mithy has like so many. It's like, look,
like 10 or something. Yeah,
they get player of the game. Like what's happening? And it can be also that he carried a lot of these games, but I think I did better than to win one. But also a lot of the games that we won, Hilly got MVP, which I I was the guy who was the first one to say, no, this guy is fucking insane. I mean, I built that narrative too, and it was part of both of us, but now after people like me way less for something that was like, very hurtful, I would say. How my image changed and everything around that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that at some point too, but it's also like something was talked about so much. Was pretty sad to see for me. Because
what about this then? We'll skip to talk about that specific scenario in a minute. But what I want to ask is this, because it's a direct tie-in question. It's like I said, essentially, like there's a lot of players. This is actually quite a famous divide with fans, by the way, in esports in history. Like I'll give you a classic example. Really old school Korean StarCraft, which has all the great like Boxer and all these like legendary players, right? What happened was when the player Boxer was the best, he had it all, mate, because he was the best player, but he was also really creative, which means you're exciting to watch. And then on top of it, he was super charismatic. So you can imagine he had every fan in the world. What that meant though, dude, was even though he was actually only the best for like 2 years, even when he dropped off and he was like the 5th best player, he had so many fans. He could be 5th and they would be loving him. Whereas the difference was the player that came after Boxer was a player called Nada, who was just like what you'd want from the best players, like a robot, just figures out all the best things, executes them all, refines them all, wins every fucking game you've ever seen. This guy won more championships than Boxer did. But he wasn't super charismatic. He wasn't the most loved personality. Everything wasn't a genius, brand new one-off build. So it meant that I remember someone phrasing it once, and it might even have been Artosis, who said, like, here's the difference. Boxer could just be loved whether he lost or won. If he wins, great, it's a bonus. If you were the guy Nada, you can only win if you win the tournament. Like, you have to actually have the trophy, otherwise there'll always be the hate who will go, I think the other guy's better, or I prefer the other guy. I feel like that's the position you've been put in. I feel like there'll always be a hater. I think even if you win the championship, dude, some people will say you weren't the best or you were carried. So like at this point in your career, you just have to get the championship. You have to get the trophy. It's the only way to mentally resolve it, right? As you say, you're not going to win them over. It doesn't matter how many great arguments you make. You can make an awesome video. You can have Dom do it. You can have any bloody analyst they like. If they don't like you, they're not going to accept it. So ultimately, like, you have to have the trophy, right? It's all great if I can make a cool argument, but you'd rather someone just had to say he was the best at one point.
Yeah, I want to win so much. And I think sometimes I want to win too much that I don't even take enough care of myself, and I think that's also something really important, that it doesn't end up being so that I'm chasing it so desperately that I'm self-destructive. I think I really need to find the joy again in what I do and the love to just perfect my game and still give absolutely everything, but I need to reach the point in my life where after I've given everything, and I know I have, that I can look at myself and be satisfied if I win 5 splits or if I win 0 splits. But of course, winning a split would, for my like professional life, mean absolutely everything for me, because it would give me some sort of validation for myself that, I mean, like I said, even if I never win, I will probably still think I was the best at a lot of points. But to have it like in stone is something that I really want, yeah.
Because to me, this ties perfectly into a recent thing that also was like sort of ammunition the haters used, where because you said that quote that like you thought you had to win the split because you're too good not to have won, they just took that as pure arrogance. Like, oh, it's just narcissism, he thinks he's the best. Like, I took that as like, look, I've been fucking grinding for years. I've finally got a really good team. Like, it has to be now, right?
Yeah. That is like something that is something people get like offended.
Oh, they love that, mate. They love it. It's like they like to read it and get angrier every time they read it.
It's just like, I mean, I don't want to, like, people that like make fun of it or make like light memes or something, that's fine. But honestly,
sure.
If you're like gloating about somebody like working really hard and not achieving something, but still having achieved a lot, being at the top level, being like the all pro or whatever, being considered the best or one of the best, it's like, yeah. I hope you are trying to succeed at something, and you're not just laughing at people that are more successful than you, and you have something that is fulfilling for you or that you're chasing, and maybe you would understand what it is.
Yeah.
And
put it this way, if you're out there and your biggest W you can take in life is upset coming third, your life is in such a bad position. I wouldn't worry about upset if I were you. Like, I'd start working on your own life at that point in time. Like, that can't be the best moment of your life that upset took an L. Come on, fucking hell.
Yeah, this is like the same people that are like excited if they race you somebody on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude,
sure.
Just
I've got a question for you then, because here's the thing. If you notice how I've tried to frame it, I'll tell you the simplest way when I have friends who are players that I always say to them. I always say this, just try and be the best player you can be. And if the right things, if you get a bit of luck, that you will win as a byproduct of that, because you tried to make yourself the best possible player, try to improve, that's all you thought. But the problem is, some people just have unlucky careers. Sometimes you just don't get a championship, or maybe, for example, maybe your championship happens. What would have been your championship instead? There's a FNATIC that's a super team, or there's a G2 that's a super team. You know, you can have it the wrong time period. Because the only thing I worry about a little bit is this. To me, I would say this: the reason it has to be about your own validation. Like if you won, the key thing I would want is that you yourself know, like I actually did do it. I accomplished it. I was the best. It was worth all the work. Because here's the one thing I worry about is I think a lot of people who've never won. I worry about this with my mate Odo there because he's never won, and one of these days it'll probably happen. You can't do it like this though, dude. It can't really be like a movie and that's the final scene. Because the problem you're going to have is this. If you win, you'll think it's like a movie, it's the final scene. But the problem is that the next day you wake up and it's the next tournament, you know? Like, I don't think people realise the actual, like, crazy validation of winning, like, in an external sense. I don't think it's as big as people realise. You know, I've heard a lot of, like, great champions. A week later, you have to just be back on the grind, you know? Like, you can't celebrate it for 6 months. Like, it feels like it's the end of the career, but it isn't. It's just a marker. So, like, do you ever wonder what it would be like if you won? If it would really make it all worth it, what do you think on this topic?
Yeah, of course. No, I think if I would win, not the sad thing, but the thing about my personality is probably I would be like, but I only won one.
Yeah, but that's also good. There's some people do the other. They go, well, I've won now, so no one can ever take it. It's like, no, if you win one, try and go for 5, you know, try and stack them.
I mean, that's exactly what would probably be my thoughts. Like, fuck, I only won one in this amount of time, and I think that's why I have to stop with that. And because it's not leading me anywhere.
Yeah, true.
Or it is leading me somewhere, because I feel so driven to practice every day and to like push everything around me to try to do it. But I also have to find the joy and the thing in my life that like I play this game because I love to compete and I love to get better and I love to perfect my craft, and I have to bring that joy also to my team. I love to play with my teammates. It's not like we have to win or everything is horrible. It's like, let's do our best and try to bring that positive energy again. And I think that's something I lacked a little bit this split, because I feel like I had that urgency so much in me, and when I felt that it was lacking, it was frustrating for me. Even if I didn't let it out in like a destructive way, it was really eating at me. And I think I need to find that that peace in me.
Right, obviously I won't ask too much about this split because, one, it's a reflections interview, it's more about reflecting back, and this just happened now, so it takes time to process anyway, and it wasn't the most successful split, so I don't want to go into all the details. There's obviously another split coming up, but what I would just ask is this: when you got this FNATIC team, which I have to say, mate, when I saw this team on paper, I mean, there was even the story where it was going to be Kabashard apparently, but instead it ended up being Wonder, right? I remember seeing the lineup on paper, and I know now everyone forces this narrative of like, Vitality was the super team. It's like, they were a super team. This was the super team, mate. I remember seeing this lineup and being like, dude, FNATIC's won the off-season. Like, this team should be number one. Do you have a similar sense? Because to me, it's why I sort of get why fans have gone a bit mental, mate, about the fact he came third. Even though to me, you were one game from being in the final on a different day. Who knows? Maybe he hadn't even had to scrim against G2. Maybe it'd be different. Who the fuck knows? But like, there's a world where you could have won. Yes, surely it's disappointing to come third. But like, I can't tell. On the one hand, part of me feels like if I have that team, you are supposed to be first. On the other hand, it's not the end of the world. Like, the team could win summer. Like, how do you weigh up this split? It must be hard.
I mean, it's definitely connected to last year for me as well. But to answer your question, it is really hard for me to finish third. And I still feel like it was not because we weren't the players that it takes to win the split. I still believe in this team and all the players. I wouldn't want to make any changes. It's just that we didn't bring the right energy at the final stretch of the split, I think. Because we actually beat the team. We dominated the team.
Yeah. That won the championship, yes.
And
indeed.
2 weeks later, they stomped us. So I think in these crucial times, we had a lack of team cohesion that was necessary to bring us back after that reverse sweep from Rogue. Even that we got reverse swept spoke to the culture or the spirit we had in our team that was lacking, that we really need to work on like heavily as a group to make sure we are strong enough in these moments and that we have that foundation that we can rely on, and that even in the difficult moments we can bring that trust and improve instead of break. And I think that's something that I need to bring a lot, that I need to bring some different things into the team. And I think everyone has to take a good look at themselves, because I still think we can win Summer Split, of course. It's not like, I mean, it feels much worse than the reality is. Like, yes, teams went third with really good teams. People went second with really good teams. But of course, I'm not happy. If I was happy, I would be insane. I want this team to win. I think we don't lack necessarily. We lack interpersonal relationships that we need to strengthen way more and really build that foundation. That's all I can say right now about this team.
Sure. Right, I have a question before we get into the drama part that people are going to want. We'll leave that at the end. Right, I have another question about ADC though. Right, even though when the champion Aphelios was released, yes, we all know the 200 years memes and it was ridiculous, and it did look, dude, like a whole year of people who don't play ADC going, like pro players going, shit, it can do that. Like, but in the game, like official games, it did look really bad. I actually feel now though, dude, like that champion's been like unfairly slighted, because now that it's not like the most dominant, like it's not like that's not like a fucking first pick champion every game. It's not OP. Like now it's actually like in the middle of the pool. And I actually feel like, dude, now that it's in the middle of the pool, that's actually a pretty interesting champion. Even though I have my qualms about like, I'm not sure some of the like randomized elements of it are that great. People who don't play ADC, I think, dude, don't understand that that was a role that people used to dismiss by saying all you do is like right click or whatever. You just click, that's all you do. This is a champion that requires a lot of like brain and understanding of like when to do things, what you can do, how you can fight. Like it feels like the even though yes, it seemed OP, now it feels like it's just a champion with a massive amount of like possibility. What do you think of it?
I love the Aphelios champ design. I think it's great. I think you touch a good point that there was a time where the blue ulti was so OP that it was just stupid, because if you hit 3 people, nearly all of them die instantly. And this was like the moments. And then of course the shurikens work differently too. They stayed way longer, they reset on monsters. And the tower was shooting, like the tower you play shoots so much faster, and the range was global, so you could kill somebody like from miles away. But I think the champ is really cool because it has so much more depth, and yeah, it's one of the stronger meta champs for sure. And it has also its fair share of counterplay. It's not like you say it's just mega busted. Yes. And I think it's nice that the game is moving into a direction like that where it gets more depth. And
can you give me a sense? Because this is one thing I've never heard anyone do, and I'm so interested to hear it, right? I have friends who obviously play all the different roles. If I privately ask them, they can do this, but I've never heard anyone publicly do it. Here's my question, right? If someone's a fan and they've only ever just watched bot lane, they don't play ADC, it's not their role, right? Give me like a rough idea of what it's like to play Aphelios. Like, what are you trying to manage in terms of like, when do I get this gone? Or if I get this gone, how am I going to do? Like, what's the sort of basic mindset of how you're playing? Because like I say, it's not just the like, I do damage or I just left click the guy. Like, what is it like to play the champion?
Yeah, I mean, the core concept, of course, is the weapon management, and I think it has a lot of different parts that give it a lot of flexibility, but also you can excel at a lot of different things. For example, when you have the weapon with the high range, the spacing you can show is like something. It has so much skill expression, because with that you can show this auto spacing really well, and like how you can punish the enemy for having higher range. And with the purple one, you can see like how well you can set up plays with your support, or how well you can do that with your jungle or your whole team, of course. And then the ulti also, that it like makes the strength really, like when you have the shuriken ulti, that you can get so many shurikens and find really cool all-in winners with that. Or how the weapons cycle when you only have like a little bit of ammo on one and then it switches into another and it's like you have 3 weapons in a fight, and how these different combinations can make plays happen that you don't think about. Like a little example, you play like red and white and your red weapon is about to go out of ammo, and you use the Q where you like spin and it shoots with your second weapon always, which is the green weapon, and then it has its stack on the enemy, and then it swaps to the purple weapon, and then you swap weapons again, that your purple weapon is the second because it shoots with the second weapon that you have equipped, and then you can snare somebody out of the red weapon and set up a play like this and hit your next Q, and then your support hits a hook. It's just a lot of small things that bring really cool interactions to the game, and I would love if more champs are like that. Yeah.
Sure. And also, I'll just say this, if you're not an ADC player and you're complaining, now you know what it's like playing fucking ADC against all those champions with a million dashes and abilities and Zoid weaving a bubble through the fucking minions that kills you. Like, yeah, now you know what, it's annoying, isn't it, when you don't know what the other champion can do at any moment, yeah. Because I actually feel like, dude, for real, now that it's balanced, Aphelios actually is like one of the answers to how out of control the meta is, because all the different things you can do in a fight, like, it actually means that they have to think about you. Whereas, think about it, like, the other side that made it fair with the old ADC meta is the other players also know that's what the ADC is trying to do, just dance on the edge of the range. Like, now it's like, look, if you get to have fucking a random box that opens with all magical abilities in, so do I, fucker. There's the revenge of the ADC.
Definitely. No, I love the new champs. Zeri as well. I mean, Zeri is differently, but yeah.
Right, okay, let's do it. Let's broach the sensitive topic here, right? I want to start with this place first, okay, Upset, right? In my opinion, the part about this story that is so off is I noticed, this is how I can tell there's like a guilty conscience of a lot of people who hated on you, dude. Because when they tell the story of the order of events, it always goes like this. They always like skip the first part. They make it sound like you just went to Worlds, and then you just disappeared from Worlds. You didn't even tell your teammates. You went home and you never gave a reason. And you just sat back like, I shouldn't have to give a reason. This isn't even true, dude. If people go and look at the tweet FNATIC made that announced what was happening, that you were leaving, it says the words like urgent family matter. It's something like phrase like that, right? Like it's really seriously, but it's not just even family matter, dude. Like if it was family matter, by the way, like, you know, maybe like your granddad, she's really old and she died and you have to go to the funeral. That's like just a normal family matter. This was put as urgent family matter. Now, I took from that, mate, even knowing like some of the things that could be, I took from that, like, you got to at least treat like this is serious until we know. Like, you cannot like assume people are making it up. And then also there's this side element which people forget as well, I notice, which is when it just said urgent family matter and no one knew what it was. Unfortunately, at the time was when Nemesis was really popping off with his stream in Korea, and he famously said something like, oh, with FNATIC there's always something else, or, you know, this could be like a cover story or so. And I think those two, like, for me, it's like people took that part and ran with it, and they never bothered listening to the fact that you didn't say specifically what it was, but you were pretty clear that, like, look, first of all, it's not your fucking business, but secondly, it's really important. Like, I cannot stay at this tournament. Like, put it this way, all I'll say is this, I've said this on camera, I do think it's heroic when people play through problems, etc. But if I had this situation you had, dude, I would immediately leave Worlds. I'm telling people that. That's all I can say to people. So what would you say to this response? Because I feel like that's why the whole thing's so fucked, is people tried to act, even Doublelift was doing this, mate. They tried to act afterwards as though we only found out like a few days ago what was going on. It's like, it was obvious it was a really big deal from the beginning. I mean, even to me, the idea that a player like you would never get to Worlds his whole career and then go and then leave for no reason just to fuck over a player on his teammate. Why would he do that? Like, I found the whole thing so weird. So I can see why it must be so frustrating, because it's not even like they have a justifiable start position, dude. It's like they were being dickheads from the beginning and they just kept doing it for months and months now. So give me your thoughts on like the initial situation that happened. Like, you must have known on some level, by the way, you're going to get backlash if you leave, right?
Yeah, I knew on some level, but it was honestly like the most stressful and also hurtful and overwhelming situation I've experienced so far in my life. And of course, I knew that there would be consequences to leaving, but I didn't quite think that people would go so far, because after I've left and it was made clear publicly that it was something very important, we didn't get too much backlash, but what really kicked it off was obviously the Adam, his famous
Yes.
tweet longer, where he said a lot of just lies, to be honest, or just false things that I can.
He's the one who kind of made it sound like you just left without reason, didn't really tell like what the real. You didn't give him the truth, right?
He renamed to like lonely wife and stuff. Like, basically,
Right.
He was literally saying in this tweet longer that there was no legit reason, or at least he doesn't know the reason. And as long as he literally said, there's no legit reason, I don't know the reason. So already it's like, holy fuck, like, yes, but I obviously told everyone in my team, we had a meeting with everyone, that I was going through something horrible, that I need to do this, and that I'm really sorry, and that I know it really sucks for them too, and I understand that this is also really blows for them, but I didn't feel like I should make any other decision no matter what. And then that this came out, it was sadly inspired the same way I felt Nemesis comments were inspired by him being slighted by FNATIC in the past.
Sure.
This was, the Adam post was, because when I was at Worlds, I told them, like, this is with my wife, and I mean, I didn't say the reason, of course, because I want to save her privacy.
Yeah. By the way, here's another thing people don't talk about. It's esports. Everything bloody leaks. Like, look, it doesn't all leak publicly, but behind the scenes, everyone finds the stories. Like, I don't blame you for not sharing that, mate. I mean, as you've seen, some of your teammates might not be trustworthy, you know.
But even fake stories get leaked, and it's not like it's even. I don't decide for other people what they want to share, especially not something like that. And the reason that this tweet, and Adam said to me at Worlds, like when I told him, and I was like, everyone was like really emotional. Of course, he said like, he hugged me, I think, and said, "Go take care of your wife." And then he was being replaced by FNATIC 2 months later. And then we wrote a little one time before, and then we wrote after. And we wrote that he heard about Alfari, and I said, I was, of course, I'm honest. I'm not going to lie to somebody. I said, yeah, FNATIC asked me to talk to him when we were allowed to, of course, because he got the permission from Team Liquid. And I was friends with him in the past. Like, I played with him. I didn't even talk much about him, but it's not important right now. And I played with him, and I liked him, and we shared like a lot of things we wanted to achieve together. And he was coming back to Europe, and FNATIC was one of the options for him to join. So I talked with him, and I told him that I would like to play with Alfari, of course. And then I told him as well that, because he heard that I don't want to play with him no matter what, I said that it's not true. And I gave him reasons like that I think he needs to improve on that, and I think it will be more difficult in this team because we want to do this. And he also, some things he has shown me throughout the year or throughout the split were very distasteful to a player like me. For example, he was the rookie that I played with that has played the least solo queue I've ever seen from any rookie, from any teammate I have. He was playing very, very little while having big champion pool problems, and he was very, very bad at trying to work on that and didn't show any sign that he wanted to work on that. And for example, when we were at Worlds, he told the team proudly after our first day of scrims that this is the first time he felt like tryharding in scrims. And to me, that's just like really insane. That that just goes so against everything I believe. And he was making it out to be like, I just leave for no reason after all the hard work he has put in. And in the end, it was much more about that he was getting replaced, and then he tried to say like, no, he's not getting replaced, he just wants to leave FNATIC. And we actually had a very civil conversation, which made him dropping the tweet longer so much more shocking. Because he said, I agree with everything you said at the end of our conversation, and I think it's hard for me, it's better for me to be somewhere else, it doesn't fit me so well, this team, and stuff like that. Where he was already kind of knew he was getting replaced, so you also have to understand that. And he was really hurt by this because it was all about Alfari. And even if you look at this post, there was so much about him portraying himself as like, he did so fucking well and it was so hard for him, but he still did it. And he's not like, there's so much left out of that and how we worked around him to make that run that we did. And that he legit talks to me and it says he agrees with everything. And I didn't even say I want to necessarily replace him, or this thing that I always get thrown at is that I told him straight up that he's not up for my ambitions, which is just an outright lie. No, I gave him the reasons. I told him what he needs to do to improve on that I think he can do better. And it wasn't something crazy. I said, you need to build better habits in scrims because that was a big problem, and you need to play way more solo queue and build your champion pool, and you need to because that's like you were not able to play a lot of the meta champs that were like really strong,
of course.
Jace and Gangplank at the time, and all the range champs as well, Vlad, Ken, whatever, and that this needs a lot of dedication, and that I have not seen that so far. But if he can do that, then that makes sense, and the communication is something he's experienced for, but also a lot of effort. And he told me like he didn't try it once so far before, but okay. And there's just a lot of problems that I gave him solutions for that he could work on, but it would take a lot. And he said he agrees that he's not that player yet, and that he won't be that player probably next year, and that it would be best for him to be somewhere else. And even if it wasn't for all of that, if you get the chance to play with an all-time amazing player like Alfari for me.
It's a no-brainer, of course, yes.
Yes, but this is like all thinking like I make the decision for the team, which I also don't do. But of course, I give my feedback on who do I think is better, this player or this player. Yeah. What are the strengths? How does he fit in our team? And I had a good conversation with him, and that he afterwards posted this was like, yeah, crazy after the conversation we had and how he portrayed it. And I'm kind of glad it's over, but I'm really sad the way it went down. And the most sad thing, of course, is that the information is to some extent revealed.
Yes, that's something I want to ask you about. So here's one area. I actually think this is the worst part of it all, dude. Not even Adam's thing. The worst thing of all to me is, like I say, even though the original statement, that's all that, by the way, you don't even have to say that, but that's all that needs to be said. It's an urgent family matter, so I have to leave. That is none of anyone else's business. There is nobody. I don't care if you're the FNATIC fan from day one. I don't care if you're an Upset fan from day one. I don't care if you're a Hylissang fan from day one and an Adam fan from day one. It doesn't matter. You have no right to the information about what happened in someone's private life. All you need to know is you can trust us. It's serious and it's none of your fucking business. Because people acted, dude. Like I say, this is why I'm so key about the wording. If it had just said like something super vague, like Upset will have to leave our team for reasons which can't be disclosed. If they just said that, maybe that would welcome speculation like everyone claims. But what they've done, dude, is act like it did say that. And so what they're acting is like, well, no, we don't have a reason, so it's fine to speculate. But then what they're speculating is so unreasonable because you know it's none of the things they speculate or anything that would warrant leaving Worlds. So I almost feel, dude, like this is like not even about esports. This is the way mob mentality works. What happened was the drama isn't sexy enough unless they know the reason. They need to know the exact reason so that they can decide things like, are you the one in the right? Is Adam in the right? Are you a douchebag for leaving? Or was it right that, they want to judge you like as a person. It's not even about us being a player. And as far as I can tell, the premise of what the public did was this. Until you tell us exactly the reason, we'll just make even more crazy lies. And we'll almost like, it's almost like we'll force you to tell us the reason because you'll feel like that's the last thing you can do to stop people. But I have to say, the reason I hate this whole scenario, dude, is I can tell you if someone's taking a lot of criticism on the internet, when you tell people the reason, they'll still hate on you. In fact, now they'll use that as the way to hate on you. So the whole thing's so fucked from our perspective, mate. What do you think of this topic?
Yeah, it's basically what you say. That's why, of course, we wanted to keep it as private as possible because of exactly what you said. But I think there's only so much pressure and pain somebody...
Oh, it builds up. Eventually you feel like you have to say something, don't you?
And also... I mean, yeah, the way we were viewed was just really, it was just heartbreaking, honestly. So, of course, it builds up, and it was like, yeah, at some point you're just so sick and tired of seeing the same things being like upvoted, or like not even upvoted, like just that this is the thing that people believe and how much, and also you have to understand how disgusting it is and how much anger and there is for like if you know the situation and that this is, and it's being so downplayed and so hurtful in the direction of her and in me. It's just, I feel like there was not a good choice to make, and I
agree. There's no there's no way out of that.
There just has to be peace. We have to try to find our peace ourselves and learn to deal with the pressure from the outside and all of that. But it's so sad because I feel like because afterwards, of course, there was some uproar, but it was very well understood, and this Adam thing really blew it all off. And
yes,
somebody like Niski, I mean, now I have like a fine relationship with him. I talked with him, but him like unfollowing me and like saying like Adam is king and all of this shit, obviously, because he was.
Do you think that was because of his situation with FNATIC?
Yes.
Obviously, he was on the outs as well, right?
He was obviously in a shit situation because he was not getting, like, teams already had players picked, and it was Humanoid was so late in the season, and there was also trying to get perks. So he was like stuck. Like, if we can't get these two that are better than him, that he would say that are probably better than him, he admit himself, then we would want him. But it was like other teams already had all the players, and then he had some opportunities, but they chose a different path, and he probably had. I mean, I understand people have resentment for Worlds. To me, that's, I mean, because I don't expect that level of maturity from anyone. I think I don't expect that they can't feel bad and frustrated and sad and angry in my direction. But what they do with that is just like there's things that I think are human and things that I think are just very, inhumane, and that he puts the like and the unfollow and like support Adam when he also of course didn't like to play with Adam. It's just was sad that he felt the need to do that, but we talked about it, and also I understand him, and he also had a really tough time. I mean, even Adam had a tough time, I understand.
Yeah, I've no doubt. Yeah, of course.
But it's just there's limits, and what Niski did is not, of course, 1,000,000 times less worse for me than what Adam did, but some people like Whippo, or I mean, Hilly, of course, by far, like Whippo didn't say anything. I know he was fucking hurt by the situation as well, and he felt really bad. And Hilly, I don't know, he is so pure. He's the person how I would expect someone who really cares about me to react with just love and understanding. And he knows how much I wanted because he has seen how much I worked in that year. And maybe we can talk a little bit about this year too, so we don't have to end it on such a.
Yeah, we'll do a nice note to end it on it. Sorry.
Yeah, so,
I've got a follow-up question on this topic though. So here's the question, right? Which is also, I essentially I want to know, like, do you realize that it is going to be tough now that you have like a public relationship and then there's all this stuff associated with it? Like, look, you can manage it, you can try not to look at stuff, but it's going to be there. Like, it's not just going to go away completely. Because I'll give you an example. I even think the way in general people characterized your relationship shows like a bias against you. Because I'll give you an example. You know those stories where you hear that like Doinby won Worlds and he has a wife, and like, whenever you hear the story about the top Asian player who gets married, people treat it like it's an awesome thing. They're like, they make the jokes, you get the wife off, like, oh wow, like they must have a great relationship. In your case, I get the feeling like they were uncharitable from day one. Like they presented it like, oh look, he's got married like way too young, like he didn't even know her that long. Oh, what, she's like a streamer, she must be like a gold digger. Like, people were like, before anything had even been said or done, it feels like people just wanted it to be like a bad situation or like read like uncharitably into the situation. So unfortunately, I feel like you're going to have to on some level deal with this in your career. It's going to be another thing to deal with, right?
I mean, on some level, I felt like when I got married first, it was like overwhelmingly positive, and it was similar to what I see, but I felt like it swung after this, like, after these things we just talked about. So, we definitely have to deal with a lot of that stuff, but I mean, I really love the relationship we have, of course. I think we are really strong and we are doing really well to be there for each other. And I think that's something invaluable. And of course we have to deal with it, but it's so worth it in every way. And I think it can also give us a lot of strength and trust that we go through something really difficult together and come out, very, very strong out of it.
Sure. All right, then let's do a couple of last topics, then we'll wrap it. Like, one I had before we get into the FNATIC one is this, because I forgot to ask you about it earlier. Right, a random detail where our careers intersect was ages ago, someone showed me, and I did a whole video on it, that like Lena had been on the fucking, I think it was like, I can't remember if it was Discord or the TSM subreddit, and she just was saying shit on there like, oh, Upset did want to join the team. Actually, like, I was talking to Upset, and I famously put out a video where I was like, doesn't she mean she was talking to Upset's team? Like, why would she even say that? Like, what the fuck? Like, you are implying you're poaching there, by the way, Lena. Spoiler, by the way, Upset. I don't need your opinion on this. I know she has poached. I know all the fucking skeletons in the closets. But not in this particular case. My point there was, if you're the president, you should be a lot more careful with your words. You shouldn't use words that imply you did apparently the opposite of what she claims, which is contact Schalke and ask if you're available. My question was this, though, because I've never asked you. You could have been in TSM.
I could have not been anywhere, because I would have not been sold to any team from my owner. No matter what.
They wouldn't sell you, is that the problem?
I heard afterwards that they wanted to trade Zven and Mithy for me, and they would have not done that.
Would you have liked to have gone at the time?
I would have liked to go to G2 in that time. But this TSM lineup 2019 compared to Schalke, I don't even remember what the lineup was.
It's the one where they had Kobe in the end, wasn't it? Am I thinking the right year? No, it's 2020 actually, never mind.
It was the one years where I could have maybe done something like that, but
it was the Sven one. Yes, sure.
Bjergsen.
The Broken Blade, Bjergsen, Dardo. No, it's 2020 again. Who the fuck was season 9? Oh, Greg and Acadian.
Yeah,
there's a bit of scoffed roster.
Probably it would have been better for my career if you think about it in a short-term way better.
Do you think at one point you go to NA? Is that something that's on the cards one day?
I think it's quite unlikely. I think I mean, of course, the teams can get better, and if there's a really good team, I don't think I would say I would never go there. And if the people really wanted there as well, there was somewhere I wanted, I could see myself going there. For example, this team Liquid Rust, I don't.
Because I've heard you've had loads of offers, dude. Like most of the NA owners I know say that they've tried to get you. Like I think Cloud9 said it. Like fucking loads of them have. They just don't. Fans don't know you've had all these offers every split, right?
Yeah, I talked to nearly most of the teams that are like good orgs I talked with and had offers or opportunities, but I always chose Europe because I mean now I'm in the position that I think I want to be in, kind of.
Yeah.
Not that I won yet, but I'm in a top team and we are making top 2. I mean, like very not satisfying finishes, but good finishes. So yeah, definitely. I think it would have been more smart economically, of course, to go there and also for my brand and everything. But I think I wouldn't have been probably in the point that I want to be, that I'm in now. But who knows what life would have brought if I went there.
All right, then, as you said, let's end. Give us some like wholesome, uplifting stories of FNATIC or Hylissang or whatever you want to end on as a good note.
I think the summer run we had Spring Split I can talk about really shortly. I think the team had just so deep-rooted issues over years that we're building. Or like with Oscar and Hilly and Bwipo, I think they all have like their heart in the right place, but I think there was just a lot of
They seem like 3 players with very different perspective on the game. Like I can't see how those 3 players could get on the same page totally.
Yeah, completely. Like Hilly and Oscar had very, very different view and the meta changed a lot. So I think Hilly was very adapted to Oscar's view, but then Oscar had to really adapt to Hilly's view and it wasn't very clear and I think it wasn't also his strength yet. And I think he's developing in that and it just wasn't meant to be. And I think
what do you think of him as a player, though? Because he's one of those players where I can see why he's in a tough spot in his career, because when he has his champions, his meta, and he's got his head right, he can be fucking insane. Like, he can completely take over the game as a jungler. But I also have seen lots of games where he just was behind or did nothing or looked like he just fucking didn't know when to gank or something. Like, what's your sense of this guy? Because I'm torn. I can't tell if he's really good and he just hasn't fixed some, or if he's like not that good, but he's just good in one way. I can't tell. I go between the two depending on what split it is.
I think he is super talented. He works really hard. I think the split where they went to Worlds, like quarters, 2020 it was in China. Yeah. I think there you could see like what this guy's ceiling is. Even in playoffs, he was playing phenomenal. In his meta with his things, I think this is like the Oscar everyone wishes he is always, but it can also be that it's not that he's bad at ganking at all. This guy actually ganks pretty good, but I think he just has a more difficult time doing the small intangible things after the early game that make like a utility jungle really great, and he doesn't bring that leadership to the team that is more required from a jungle if it's a meta.
I heard he's more of a follower, right?
Yeah, kind of. Like if he plays carry and farms and is fat, he will 1v9 probably, but if he has to carry through like setting up good things strategically and setting up the map really well. Like his early game is good, but after that, I think this is the thing he can improve mostly on, I think, and being more mature in that way. But he definitely wants it. He just didn't find the right way yet to make it in the team that he is, I think.
By the way, since you were talking about Hylissang this year, right, one thing I've heard in all the Hylissang FNATIC lineups is that he's the reason why they have infamously bad scrim culture of like every game's like 50 kills at fucking 20 minutes or whatever. Like, is that accurate? Is it just Hylissang? Because the problem is, surely that's how he plays in LEC as well. Like, how does it work differently in scrims?
I think it's something he's working on this split more, because some people scrims are like have a different importance of how they should be played than others, and like I said, he's trial and error type of player very often, and he takes longer breaks, and I think when he comes fresh into the split in the start, that's where the meme is like FNATIC and Spring Split and stuff. I think a lot of these players had this mindset of like, we just were at Worlds, now we take a break, and then we start playing when the split starts. And other players are like sweating, like Rogue is probably like...
That's why FNATIC always starts Spring Weeky, right? Yeah, they like get in the playoffs eventually,
Yeah, than usual in these older lineups. And I think he takes it as a process, and I think it definitely can hurt scrim quality at some point, but it can also improve your chances of winning on stage as well. But I think he's working on that. I think he's getting better at that, actually.
Right, I've got a really unique question as the last question. It's not even a super complicated one. It's just going to be like this, right? Obviously, the downside of if someone wins Worlds, because you get to pick the skin, is it has to be something you played though. So if for example, if you were like an old school fan of a champion that's not played anymore, you can't get that skin. So we'll spin it differently. Here's the question: if Upset managed to win Worlds, but so you're going to get your picky skin, but you can pick the champion that it would be. There's no like rule about the meta of the year. Like essentially, what champion would you want to represent Upset in the history of League of Legends? What champion should it be?
I think I would take Tristana. Because it would just be hilarious.
Just to fuck with Rekkles fans. That must be the reason why, right?
I think my Tristana is honestly insane. Like even in the playoffs last split, I think my Tristana is just so fucking good, and it's like, I think it would just be iconic. Like, FNATIC deserves a Tristana skin.
Okay, that's a good way to say it. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Hilarious. And I love that champ too. I really love to play Trist.
Right, at the end of the interview, do you have any final words or shout out or thank someone?
Yeah, I think I want to say thank you for my org in a way, that they were very supportive, because I think you can't expect that with organizations necessarily, and I think they did well. And of course I want to thank my wife, to be honest, because she has been through so much pain, and how she's seen is like really sad for me, because she is so supportive and loving with everything, and I think it's important to share that. And also I hope we will do better as a team next split, and I won't give up anytime soon on accomplishing it, because that's, I think, what's the most important thing in the end, that you keep going.
Danke, sir.
You're welcome. Gern geschehen.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadju, Matt Pugnatio Ragula, Travis Goff, Adam Oaks, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Hades, Jensen Gore, Joseph Ginsberg, Kovacevic, Tobias Bernasconi, Toucan, William Peyton Lacey, Zumba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks always goes out to Jerky's Minion. Want to suggest a topic or a guest? Want to ask a question in my monthly AMA? I promise they're coming. Want teasers for my upcoming content? Would you like to be in one of those lengthy donated discussions with me? Well, if any of the above tickles your fancy, or the other perks available, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrolluminati today, where? In the description box below.